How does a writ of possession work during an eviction? Imagine going through an eviction and wondering what happens next. Well, a writ of possession is the final step that helps landlords regain their property legally. After a landlord wins an eviction lawsuit because the tenant didn't leave voluntarily, they can ask the court for a writ of possession. This is a formal court order that gives law enforcement the authority to remove the tenant and their belongings from the rental unit. It is usually issued after the court has reviewed the case and decided in favor of the landlord. Once the writ is issued, it is served to the tenant, often by a sheriff or marshal. This document tells the tenant they have a limited amount of time, often a few days, to vacate the property. The exact time frame can vary depending on local laws, but generally it is between 3 to 5 days. During this period, the tenant has the chance to leave voluntarily to avoid eviction. If they do not leave by the deadline, law enforcement officers are authorized to physically remove the tenant and their belongings from the rental property. The process of executing a writ of possession involves several steps. First, the landlord must have followed all legal procedures, such as serving proper notices and winning the court case. Once the court grants a judgment for possession, the landlord can request the writ. The court then issues the writ, which is served at the property, often posted on the door as a notice. Law enforcement officers will then arrive at the property to carry out the eviction. They will typically give the tenant a final warning before physically removing them. Timing can vary depending on jurisdiction, but generally, the writ is valid for a certain period, often around 75 days. If the tenant still refuses to leave, law enforcement can proceed with removal during this window. Landlords should also be aware of local laws about handling tenant belongings. Some areas requiring landlords to store belongings for a certain period or dispose of them properly. The purpose of a writ of possession is to ensure the eviction process is lawful and orderly. It prevents landlords from taking matters into their own hands, which could lead to legal penalties. Without this court order, any attempt to remove a tenant could be considered illegal self-help eviction. So, in essence, a writ of possession is the court's official green light for law enforcement to step in and help landlords regain control of their property after all legal steps are completed.